7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Good evening. This is the meeting of the Brisbane City Council, April 2nd, 2026. Calling the meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no council members attending remotely tonight. City Clerk, could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Davis.
Here.
Councilmember Kern.
Here.
Councilmember Lentz.
Here.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Here.
And Mayor Mackin.
Here, thank you. City Attorney, can I get a report out of the March 21st closed session and tonight's closed session, please?
On the March 21st, of course, I thought it was the 23rd. On the March meeting, the discussion was about threatened litigation, and the council gave direction to staff. This evening, the discussion was about the city attorney's position and my retirement, and staff gave direction to council as well. Or direction came from council to staff.
Thank you very much. Going on to adoption of the agenda, we are pulling item I due to staff request for further review. Can I get a first and second to adopt the agenda as it stands?
So moved.
Second.
Can I make a recommendation to pull something from the agenda?
Yes.
Where do I do that? Now?
Now,
I make a recommendation that we pull item L which is consider adoption of the fiscal year 26-27 council priorities. I'm recommending that we pull that for further refinement and move it to a future meeting for discussion.
okay, so we are approving the agenda, pulling items I and L. Could I again get a first and second reflecting those modifications?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, okay. Oral communications, number 1. Need to read our caveat statement here. We welcome speakers providing public comment, but please be advised this is a limited public forum. It's therefore important for speakers to stay on topic, whether you're speaking to a particular agenda item or speaking during general public comment. On-topic matters are those that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. Speakers, whether during oral communications or on agenda items, will have 3 minutes. Following these rules helps ensure the city council can get to all the items on the agenda, including hearing public comment on the items. If a speaker fails to follow these rules, they are disrupting the meeting and will be warned. If a speaker continues to ignore the rules or is otherwise disruptive, their opportunity to speak will be ended and they may be precluded from speaking on any other items tonight. City Clerk, do we have a member of the public wishing to make public comment? I do have 2 slips here. Okay, first one I have is Marjorie Ruiz. Marjorie, come on up to the podium. And welcome.
Mayor, council members, members of staff. Hello, Marjorie Ruiz Hidalgo, your local government affairs representative from PG&E serving the county of San Mateo. Here to say hello in 2026. Happy New Year to most of you. I haven't seen you, and yes, I recognize it's April. I'm actually here tonight to talk about safety. So we have what is called the PG&E Report It program. It is an app. It is also available as a desktop version. It is available in the Apple Store and in the Android store, whatever their version is called. And what it does is it, in addition to all of the drones, helicopters, cameras, technology that we have, it actually invites members of the public to take pictures of anything that it might find concerning. It might be a vegetation issue, a tree that might look too close to a power line, anything that is related to a PG&E asset. You can take a picture, you can submit it to the safety team, and you can track it all the way through to its conclusion, and we will give you our findings. This is in no way, please hear me loudly and clearly, replaces 911. If you see a downed power line, walk away. Don't go near it and call 911. If you smell gas, call 911. But this is just an added layer of safety that connects customers and residents directly to the PG&E public safety team. And it allows them to report any concerns that they might have so that the public starts to feel better. So I have already circulated the app link to staff. I'm happy to circulate it to you directly, but it is quite easy to use. PG&E report it, you download it, you take a picture, submit your concern, and you get connected to public safety team at PG&E, and you can follow it all the way through to conclusion. If you have any questions, please let me know. But I am very excited about this. I think it connects the members of the public directly to PG&E in a way that I think will bring a lot of comfort and safety to members of the community.
Ms. Ruiz, before you depart from the podium there, could you repeat the name of the app? Because I think we got it in the beginning.
PG&E Report It app. You can Google it. It'll be, I think it's top 3 results. You can find it in the Apple Store for Android, and there is a West Desktop version. And what I'm hoping is that members of the public will use it to communicate directly to PG&E and, streamline the process a little bit more. I know that Jeremy and Christina get a lot of concerns, and they are so great to work with. But I think if, this is just another added layer of ways that the public can connect with PG&E on anything that they're concerned about.
Okay. Thank you very much,
You're
and
very
thank you
welcome.
for bringing that news to us
Absolutely.
tonight.
Thank you for coming to Brisbane.
Jimmy Sosa,
Does my time start now or when that thing hits?
you're ready to
Get
go
extra
here.
minutes. and
Thank you
extra
very
time,
much,
man.
council members and the jury. I live on Tulare Street for years now. I've noticed the amount of traffic we've been getting on Tulare Street. The traffic is with deliveries, tons of deliveries. Tulare Street is like a lot of streets in Brisbane, it's very narrow. The unfortunate part about Tulare Street is it's a one-way street with two-way traffic. So cars are flying in and out, and people have to dodge into someone's driveway to get out of the way of crashing. And we have tons of deliveries. On the negative side also is it's a cul-de-sac. So what flies in, flies out. And people are in a rush to get in and out. We even have residents that are flying in and out of there, going far too fast. Many times I've been walking on my street with my dog on a leash because I have to keep it close, and I've almost been hit by a car. When I hear a car behind me, I have to look behind me to see if they're looking at me because they're on their phone, or they're looking, talking, or they're looking where their next delivery is going to be. And so they're not paying attention. We don't have sidewalks. It's dangerous. It's gotten worse. For years now, I've noticed the increase in traffic, and it's not getting better. Many of my residents all agree, and I told them I was doing something about this. This was months ago, and that I was going to be talking. And of course, this is my first time here, but I did speak with
Maz.
with Moz, and about it today. I think I've mentioned it to Cliff Lenz, but it's very serious. It's gotten real bad, and at some point, 50 miles an hour zone is not gonna help, because you can't monitor that unless you have a police officer or cameras. Bumps in the road would be helpful. Some streets in Brisbane already have them, and they have two-way streets with sidewalks. We don't have two-way streets, we don't have sidewalks, and we need those bumps to stop people from just speeding down the street. Like a father and I were walking down the street the other day, and a car almost hit him and his two kids. He was walking in from the elementary school home. He lives on Tulare Street. We both turned around, had to get out of the way to let the car fly by us. Shouldn't be like that. We should be able to go to the side, but have the car pass us safely. It's unsafe. Someone's going to get injured. Someone's going to get hurt. Something bad's going to happen. And I'm hoping that we can have these bumps in the road be put in place to prevent any future accidents and allow the people that live on the street be able to walk up and down the street without having the fear that someone behind them isn't paying attention. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your coming tonight.
I'm hoping that some action does take place, though. I'm not here to talk because I want to talk to you guys. I like you guys. You're all nice people. But this is a serious matter. You guys got bumps on
Thank
the
you,
roads
sir.
already.
Thank you.
Let's put some on where it's needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we move on to the consent calendar.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
if I may.
Yes,
I
sir.
realized I skipped a line in my report. The council heard two things in closed session tonight. It also denied item D, the Santiago liability claim. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, back to consent calendar. We're pulling out item G for discussion. So may I get a motion to adopt consent calendar items B through F?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Okay, item G, city manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. On page 193 of your packet, or it lists as Exhibit A, page 4. This is the actual description of the position that we would like you to approve the changes to tonight. I'm going to read a section of it where there was some missing verbiage. This is under the license portion, again, page 193. You'll see in the second paragraph, this class is distinguished from all other engineering classes by its supervisory and administrative, then there's nothing. Let me fill in the blank. Responsibilities over a wide range of duties, as well as performing the more complex engineering and project management assignments. Assignments and projects may be long-term or may constitute a major portion of a continuous or comprehensive engineering or construction program. With that addition, we would request that the council approve the item. Thank you.
Okay, so we're dealing with item G amended as stated. Could I get a first and second, please?
So moved.
And a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Thank you. Old business, first item H, Halloween street closure event review. Could we have a staff report, please? Caroline?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. I'm here to provide an overview of last year's first ever Halloween street closure. As you recall, this item was before you in September when Commander Garcia presented the Complete Street Safety Committee's recommendation. At that September 4th City Council meeting, it was noted that the immediate and robust public messaging would be initiated to notify residents and visitors well in advance. So it was a bit of a compressed moment in time, but as your assistant to the city manager responsible for directing city communications as part of my assigned duties, I'm pleased to provide you with the various efforts that went into this community event. I'll note that the intent of staff is to return later this summer with a more structured plan for Halloween 2026 and getting more direction and adoption from the council at that time. So if I could have the next slide. I'd like to just bring up a map of the Complete Streets original recommendation so we can just look back on that left-hand side to see what the council had before them that evening and what the council directed for the full road closures, which was on the right-hand side. It's referred to as the web streets. It didn't include the San Francisco closure, as you recall, Plumas, or that left-hand side of Mariposa between Plumas and Alvarado. The hours were also shortened from 5 to 9 p.m. to 6 to 8 p.m. to allow residents time to get home after work. Next slide. So with the October Star being laid out the following week, communications staff quickly began preparing an article, which we called Spooktacular Streets Ahead, Halloween Night Road Closures, working in conjunction with Public Works and police. The same information would be shared in the September 10th blast and posted on the city's website and social media. And those include Facebook, Instagram, Nextdoor, and X. Around the day the Star dropped in mailboxes, October 1st, staff had an initial planning meeting with members of Public Works, Police, the City Manager's Office, and Parks and Recreation, where we discussed a traffic safety plan that was provided by Sergeant Lester Vega. And on October 7th, we had a meeting with lead volunteer Jessica Aloft. Next slide. A mock-up of the volunteer badge was shared at that meeting, and police also stated that volunteers would receive safety vests and flashlights at check-in, which was to take place at 5:30 p.m. on Halloween at the park. It was also stressed that the volunteer's role would be to ensure the barricades stayed in place, and if any issues arose, the volunteer was to call Jessica or the police dispatch number, both of which were found on their badges. Next slide.
Excuse me, was that
sure.
glow wands?
They're glow wands / flashlights.
Okay.
They're not pictured here.
They,
but-
well, they say glow wants.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Glow wands.
Aren't those?
My mistake.
Well, go ahead. Thank you.
You're welcome. So the door hangers on this slide were put together by the communications team between the two meetings and hung on every door within the closure area with the help of staff from the clerk's office, and also adjacent properties located just outside the closure received them as well on October 15th. Electronic communications were updated in, next slide, please. Electronic communications were updated in October to include additional parking areas at the Catholic Church and the Brisbane Village Shopping Center once confirmed by the respective property managers. Public Works set out the changeable message sign on Old County and Bayshore to alert motorists of the closure approximately 2 weeks in advance. Next slide. That afternoon, before the closure, an SMC alert was sent out by CityComs indicating that planned road closures would be in effect. It's very small, but that's the email version of the SMC alert. And on the left-hand side, you'll see that 2 more SMC alerts were sent on Halloween, reminding subscribers about the closure, one at 3 p.m. and another at 6 p.m. Between 6 and 7 p.m., stories were shared on the city's Instagram and Facebook capturing the volunteers stationed at each of the closures. And that's them gathering to get their glow wands and their safety vests and their badges at the park. Next slide. In the days following, the 18 volunteers, which manned 9 intersections, and the 5 youth advisory committee members who helped along Napa Avenue, were sent a survey to see how they felt the event went. Sorry, this is a little bit light on this projector, but essentially many families came down to the end of Mariposa and Alvarado to trick or treat. A volunteer said that a big barricade would be needed there and at Plumas and Mariposa, or just close the street at Plumas and San Francisco. Alvarado and Mendocino needed flashing lights. Alvarado was not closed at all, and walkers weren't aware of the street being open. There was an instance of 3 to 4 cars going down the alleyway and onto the street. In addition, we need to make sure that ride shares like Waymo are aware of the closures. There were sightings of a Waymo coming down, I believe it was Mariposa. Also asking local restaurants to get involved, bringing in a food truck near the park. Having a police cruiser blocking the street worked well to contain a majority of the trick-or-treaters to the pie. 1 more officer would have been better. And lastly, 4 volunteers at the 5 points and at the top of Alvarado were needed instead of 2 to help people cross and direct people where to park. And then someone else noted that a map of the parking options would have been helpful to have to hand out at those 2 locations. And so the December Star highlighted the event with a survey for residents this time to complete. And it was really important to hear from those that were within the closure area, or to actually see like who responded, whether or not they were in the closure area. We had different blocks demarcated in the survey so that they could note which block that they lived on. And so that December Star cover had the QR code to the survey. And again, door hangers were also left, this time with help from the finance team, so that everyone in the closure area would be able to take that survey. Next slide shows the highlights from that survey. And then I'll just say that there were 89 respondents, 49 or 57% of the respondents were residents within the closure area. Some of the responses were to extend or adjust the street closures, especially along Alvarado and Visitation. Lighting was a common concern, with several asking for better illumination at corners and throughout the closure area. candy donation or a fund to involve residents outside the closure zone and bring them in and have them be a part of this. And also that would help offset costs for residents within the busiest areas. Some living in or near the closure area wanted more advance notice, though no one cited in the survey that they hadn't been informed in advance. And lastly, over 80% thought the road closures contributed to a safer environment for the trick-or-treaters and pedestrians, with strong support to continue the program this year. And that is the last slide. Again, it is just to give you a overview of how it went and to let you know that staff will be returning probably later this July or August to formulate the plan for this year and again involve the volunteers that worked really closely with the staff to ensure this was a safe event. So with that, I'll take any questions or discussion.
Thank you, Caroline.
You're
Let's start with some council questions. Mayor Pro Tem Davis, how about you starting?
No questions, just comments.
All right. Councilmember Lenz.
Well, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say I thought it was a fantastic event, and I really enjoyed being out there with Chris. I know that Frank was out there too. You were with Alan on your corner, Frank. Yeah, so it's excellent to get all this fabulous feedback because sometimes you don't know, and but yeah, you've done a fantastic job of helping people be informed and then getting information from them, getting that feedback to do a better job. So,
Okay.
yeah, excellent.
Councilmember O'Connell?
Do we know what the cost was for this event?
Yeah, in the staff report, there was, I know you guys just had a presentation on overtime, but police overtime for the Halloween closure event. So it spanned over, I believe, 5 officers. Let me just go back.
The
PD
cost is
had-
on page 196.
Yeah. Police department reported that there was about 15 hours over 5 employees or officers for about $1,200. Public Works reported that 31 hours over 4 employees, and that included for meeting prep, the event itself, and cleanup. That amounted to just over 4,300, so total was about 5,600.
Through the chair, to your question, Councilmember O'Connell, this obviously does not include the time that staff was meeting and doing the work to prepare for the event. We did not attempt to calculate that as part of this.
Thank you.
Okay, I have no questions. Do we have any public comments? City Clerk, anyone? Oh, I see a hand in the audience.
Another volunteer. At night.
Where's my timer? Are we kidding?
It's coming.
We'll get it for you.
It's coming.
Better get a head start.
You asked.
Thanks.
You shall,
Thanks. Paul Buscal,
you shall
Brisbane
receive,
resident.
yes.
So I was just curious. The comment was made about having a food truck on San Francisco, and there was talk about having like something on San Francisco, but because San Francisco was the artery to get to Alvarado, to make it back up to San Bruno Avenue, we decided that we weren't going to have an event there, or it wouldn't be practical to have an event there in a future, have a future event. But I thought having a food truck at the park, maybe a food truck would be better at like Midtown parking lot, so we didn't have people and kids running across the street back and forth to the park to go to a food truck, not expecting to have traffic on San Francisco Avenue because it was really busy, San Francisco Avenue. And then another thing, while I was on Monterey and visitation, we were standing at the barricade, and it was really great having the police cars there. That was invaluable to have them available and the presence of the cars and really making it to where you couldn't get down the street unless they moved their cars, as opposed to barricades or cones. So that was really why there were so many officers there, I'm sure, to man their vehicles. But with that said, visitation had a lot of people at Monterey making U-turns. on visitation. And that flashlight at one point really helped because we were able to put it in front of the car that was making a U-turn when kids didn't expect. They thought the car was going up the street, and then he whipped a U-turn. Many cars did that. So maybe people that are on Monterey, because the police cars are there, we could have decided to be like at the stop signs and being crossing guards, because there was a lot of stuff going on the other side on Monterey with stuff being projected up in the buildings, and it drew a lot of people to that. And there was also food at Lyrical Opposition, so people were crossing the street at visitation. So maybe we'll work more on having some crossing guards on visitation. But everything was great, and it really went off, I believe, without any real serious issues. So thanks for having that.
Okay, thank you. City Clerk, I see a hand online. Christina F.
Hi there. Yeah, this is Chris Barkowski. I just wanted to say that it was a great opportunity to be a volunteer for that event. As Councilmember Lentz remarked, we had a great time there on the corner. And I think with more advance notice, we might be able to encourage more people to participate as volunteers, because it's a way to be engaged in Halloween if you don't have a particular condition. I live in an apartment. It's not really suitable to have kids come up to the third floor. So this is a way to participate when you might not be able to do so at home. The participation of law enforcement was really wonderful and a great support for what we were doing. And finally, the comments that you got back in the feedback sessions about street lighting, that was true that night, and it is true every night of the year. I just want to point out that, and I know it's not something we're going to be able to do about it in the short term, but maybe in the long term, street lighting would contribute greatly to safety on our streets. If we should ever see an opportunity in terms of a grant or something to be able to improve the quality of illumination on our streets. Thank you.
Okay. City Clerk, any other members of the public?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Kern, did I miss you on questions for staff?
I didn't have any, so thank you.
Could you make some up? We'll miss your questions if you don't.
I don't even have one laying around.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, we have a hand is raised, I'm sorry, from Diana S.
All right. Go ahead.
Hello, City Council. Thanks for the report. I had filled out the survey. I live on San Bruno, and two of the things that I did not hear in the staff report was the amount of trash that was left on San Bruno. In my one block, I picked up a whole bag of trash, including cans for adult beverages. And the other thing I had suggested is maybe this needs to rotate to other neighborhoods so it's not always put on San Bruno Avenue. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, council discussion. Let us start with Council Member Kern.
Thank you. Something I did not see in the feedback, and I took the survey, so I should have provided it. It's my bad. But there was a lot of questioning around the daylighting parking spaces in town when people were struggling for parking, and they were using those spaces. The police were out. I think they were issuing warnings, so maybe that's something that we just need to pay attention to on the go forward. I know that we're talking about doing some curb painting and whatnot, so maybe it'll stand out a little bit better for the next event. But I'm just letting you know that was an issue. People saw them, they're like, hey, that's a spot. It wasn't a spot. I think the event overall was absolutely amazing. I got absolutely no negative feedback on it. I think that the town really embraced it. The only thing I kind of heard was I didn't get as many trick-or-treaters this year. That was sort of a common theme. I went through all 1,000 pieces of my candy, no problem. But we were also volunteers at the end of the street, so we got to see everybody. So I think staff really stepped it up in a very short period of time. I want to thank Jessica Aloft for bringing the idea forward. I think it was just a fantastic overall event. I am not going to ask the question tonight, but I'm excited to see the upcoming feedback from staff regarding the 2026 event. It's going to be interesting how you plan to close Alvarado Street, just because that became Brisbane's superhighway that night in terms of just vehicular traffic. And so it'll be interesting to see what you guys propose. But I'm not asking you how you're going to do that tonight. We'll have to wait for the plan. Thank you so much. That's all that I have.
Okay, Councilmember O'Connell?
I am really glad that it went off without a hitch, and I thank everyone for all their work, the volunteers and the staff for all the work that they did.
Okay, Councilmember Lentz?
Well, I already made some comments, but Frank, mentioned Jessica, and I wanted to thank Jessica, and then also Emily too. You always have to make sure that you're acknowledging the citizens that volunteer, and so all the community members that pitched in to make it a great event. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Davis?
Yeah. Sarah Mills was also a big one behind the scenes. And Chris Florkowski sent a lot of really good diagrams, which I appreciated and we had in our staff report. So thank you for that. I was actually surprised by the amount of trick-or-treaters. I would say in the amount of time I've been living at my current place on Mendocino, this was the lightest year of trick-or-treaters I've ever experienced. It was still a lot, but it definitely was not it wasn't the insanity that I'm accustomed to. And so I wonder if maybe the word got out to neighboring communities and they were like, oh, it's just going to be too difficult. And so maybe it was more locals. I'm not sure. I also wonder if it's that because people they parked where I am in Mendocino is kind of in the middle. So they parked at the top or parked at the bottom. And by the time they got to me, it was much later. You couldn't just start on whatever street you wanted to, as most people have done in the past. And so maybe, people with little kids got a few streets in and then they were done. So I just have my theories. I don't know if we've been talking about things for in the future. I don't even know if this is a need, but we may get to a point where we need to provide some porta potties somewhere. So that is something we may need to consider. I also think that food opportunities, maybe we could have some kind of a hot dog stand, but maybe this could be run by volunteers and the money that we raise could go to the Friends of Brisbane Parks and Rec. I think we need to capitalize on this opportunity to raise money for our city. Yeah, sure, we can have a food truck in, but why would we not try to capture all these people and sell them something that we could benefit from? So I think it's it's a good fundraising opportunity for us, especially if we had a map. You could maybe pay $25 or $50 to put your house on the map if you wanted to. Maybe you're doing a haunted house, but you're outside of the closure area and you think that people aren't going to come to you because they're not going to know about it. Maybe you could pay to put your house on the map and say maybe if you're giving out something special or you have special decorations that you want people to know about. I think it's a good opportunity. And so yeah, that's another way that we could raise money. And we could also sell water too. But I'm wondering Alvarado, it seems like the problem with Alvarado was San Bruno to San Francisco, or was it was it San Bruno to Visitation? That because it seems to be wider, that part of Alvarado, San Bruno to Visitation, I think can handle more traffic than San Bruno to San Francisco. It's much narrower in that part of Alvarado. So I'm wondering if the suggestions to close Alvarado was really that portion of Alvarado, or was it all of Alvarado? Because you really have to have some kind of artery somewhere to cycle people through.
Definitely on the lower part of San Bruno. Alvarado. More people were gathering. City Manager Jeremy Dennis was out too and taking pictures at night. There was a lot more folks that were on like the lower half of San Bruno, Alvarado area. So
Okay. Anyway, just my 2 cents.
thank you for the feedback,
Okay.
and the ideas.
So I have to recognize the kids. The kids were really, really cute. And I'll address Mayor Pro Tem Davis, who asked about whether there were less kids. The kids were concentrated in lower streets. There were a lot of kids.
Well, I live
Lot
in
of
lower
kids.
streets. It was less for me.
Well, but way down the lower streets. The
Oh,
lower
of
end,
this
down the
pie.
hill. Yes, of the pie.
Interesting.
The lower part
Okay.
was very, very heavy.
That makes sense.
As far as some talk about food, I instead of a food truck or hot dog stand, I'd like to see, since the visitation businesses took a big hit, I'd like to see someone reach out to them and support them. And maybe they can do little stands in front of their businesses. We're trying to support our Brisbane businesses. Let's not bring in competition. Let's make them part of this and not lose business, but gain business that night. Maybe they could have Halloween specials. In terms of past Halloweens and safety of this, in terms of the area closed, I was in favor of closing all the streets. I was disheartened to see several trucks get through, and it was horrible to see the trucks get through with people walking. That cannot happen again. And worse, and I'm not trying to be a naysayer, but these are things that need to be dealt with. When the event ended, everybody was still in the street, and cars were coming down the street in the dark with people walking in the streets. So either the event needs to close way earlier than the roads are opened up, or somebody needs to literally get on a motorcycle or walk the streets and make sure everybody's out of the street. I'm very concerned because you've got little kids and then they're learning it's okay to walk in the middle of the street. Are we closing the streets so they can walk in the street, or to make them safer? And I think maybe we're sending a wrong message there, because it was really hard to get people out of the streets. And the cars coming around corners were terrified to find people walking in the middle of the street in the dark. That was not good. That was a more unsafe Halloween. That needs to be dealt with. I don't want to see anybody get hurt.
I think with more volunteers, that could be accomplished, because I know in the prep meetings, the volunteers were saying if we have two on either side of the street, like of the web street, then they would walk towards each other and like have, megaphone or something to announce the streets are opening. So please be aware. That would be maybe like 10 minutes before 8.
Well, some of the people
But-
walking in the street, because I was watching the clock, were still walking in the street a half an hour after the event ended. That was troubling. That's not good. We've got to do better. So that's a challenge. I don't know how we do that, but I'd just like to make sure that we address it.
Sure.
We don't want to see this, what is seemingly a nice event for everyone turn into something where someone gets hurt. So I'd also like to thank all the volunteers. I think they did a great job. And, more power to them. So, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So I'm supposed to ask you, do you have enough direction to go on from here with?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, through the chair, if I could, it's really the intention tonight, A, to provide the update because it's been a little while. B, get you ready for the conversation. Instead of having that information come the same night as asking for your input, we wanted to provide it now. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item we have is under new business, and it is item J, the Complete Street Safety Committee 2025 accomplishments and 2026 work plan. Staff report, please.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council and public. Maz Bazarginian, Public Works Director. I just want to introduce the infamous Paul Buscal, who is now our current chair of the Complete Street Safety Committee. He will be leading this presentation. I want to thank our council, and especially our liaisons to the Complete Street Safety Committee, for entertaining the change in some of the formatting that we're doing this year with respect to the work plan and accomplishments. So with that, I will turn it over to Paul.
Thank you. Hi. So, Oh, there we go. So thanks, Paul Buscal, Brisbane resident. And, yeah, so did you guys get a chance to look at this?
We read everything.
Okay.
We haven't seen this presentation.
Right.
Okay. So I'll start with this. This is the Complete Street Safety Committee members, Emily Weirwick, and who was our chair, and myself, who I am now the chair, and Christian Cabrera, he is committee member, and Raymond Liu, committee member. Okay, so one of the things we worked on was the Mariposa Monterey Street one-way streets investigation. As you know, the investigation of the potential for the one-way streets on Mariposa and Monterey Street was referred to the Complete Streets Safety Committee by the Director of Public Works in late 2024 and early 2025. The investigation included public outreach, site visits, which we had at the library, which were very important to include the members of the community, specifically that use those routes. I think our intentions were to make it up to Sierra Point, people that lived on Sierra Point. I'm not quite sure if it made it up there. I know it made it like the first block of Humboldt, but we did try to reach out to as many people in the general area as possible. So the investigation included public outreach, site visits, and discussions with Public Works and North County Fire staff. And if you remember, I believe that a lot of this was brought on because of North County Fire saying that they couldn't make the turn with some of their big engines on Mariposa on Solano to get to the school. So that was the whole initial why this investigation was being done. So for their December 2024 meeting, the committee invited residents of these streets to attend this Complete Streets Safety Committee meeting in the Brisbane Library to hold an open discussion for residents to voice their opinion on the proposals. Upon reviewing the feedback received and discussing at their January and February 2025 meetings, the Complete Street Safety Committee was receptive to the concerns of the residents and ultimately decided not to recommend the one-way streets. And that was for a lot of reasons. I mean, there were valid reasons why some people wanted to see it, especially down on like Inyo, where people come down and hopefully when we talk about improvements on visitation, that might alleviate some of the issues that people had concerning especially drop off and pick up traffic going to the schools. So next. Okay, and so now review and recommend improvements to Visitation Avenue. So now we're moving on. The question of improvements to Visitation Avenue was referred to the Complete Street Safety Committee for further evaluation and the development of the recommendations at the March 6, 2025 City Council meeting. And one of the things I wanted to mention, I'm not sure if it's going to be coming up on the next slide, but that whole issue with the parking and the parking enforcement equipment that they were going to put out, as you know, that's not moving forward. The parking sticks, what were they called?
We're gonna evaluate, right?
Huh?
Yeah, that's correct. It was the, there was some new technology that Paul's referring to that was automated parking metering and
The ballers?
yeah, those ballers, I forgot what they were called. Safety, we refer to them as safety sticks, but unfortunately they have not been applied in any jurisdiction in California quite yet. So we're holding off to wait until that gets forward.
Okay.
Concern was that we would put them out there, tickets would be issued, and they all have to be dismissed.
That wouldn't be good.
That's why I got Maz with me, see? Thanks, Maz. Okay, sit down. Okay. So, let's see. I left off on, so we discussed improvements to Visitation Avenue at our April through June 2025 meetings and conducted surveys for residents and businesses on Visitation Avenue. The final recommendation was ultimately postponed due to transitioning Public Works leadership. But I believe now we're back on track. Next to the list. Oh, okay. The discussion resumed in December 2025, and the Complete Street Safety Committee began preparing for a meeting with community members to share a short list of potential improvements and receive public feedback. Potential improvements were presented to members of the public at the Complete Street Safety Committee February 2026 meeting was held at the Brisbane Library. Allowing residents to share their thoughts and opinions at a public meeting was essential for the Complete Street Safety Committee to finalize their recommendations sent to the council in April 2026. And a lot of what was shared by the residents were, I guess there was a young child at one point years ago killed on Visitation in Monterey. So one of the neighbors that lived there said, hey, you know, people just drive too fast. They don't stop at the stop signs. I mean, the stuff that's brought us to where we're at today is the same complaint that's kind of like brought us here. So U-turns, you know, the usual stuff. So that's what was going on with those members of the community regarding issues on visitation. So allowing residents to share their thoughts, and that's what we did, and then we sent it to the council in April 2026. Okay, so, before I go on to Thomas Avenue, was there anything that you wanted to, should we talk about each?
No, it's agenda after this item. So
Yeah. Okay, yeah, all right. So, we reviewed feedback on the pilot parking program on Thomas Avenue. You know how that went over. So on April 18th, 2024, City Council reviewed neighbor feedback regarding a potential trial program on Tulare Street and or Thomas Avenue. Based on the survey results, City Council agreed to a trial residential parking permit program on Thomas Avenue from November 2024 to April 2025. And based on the survey results for the parking permit program, the Complete Street Safety Committee and staff recommended terminating the program at their July 2025 meeting. Council agreed to terminate the program at their July 17th, 2025 meeting, and I believe it was because of would have been issues with enforcement and it just didn't go over well. Is that right? It didn't go over well. So next. Okay, well, we discussed the Halloween Street closure, so I don't know if there's anything more we need to talk about that. But I am going to read it. No, I'm kidding. Next. Oh, that's it. Let's see. Next. Additional accomplishments. Letter of support for the city, the SIO 3 Transportation Demand Management Grant. Was that what we?
That was for
Yeah. Okay.
So that was a typo.
Okay. Received the CCAG and San Mateo County Transit Authority countywide transportation plan presentation at the November 2025 Complete Street Safety Committee meeting and provided comments. We just met again last night with Patrick, who you're going to be hearing stuff coming from him shortly that's exciting. and opportunities for us to be involved in receiving a grant possibly. So that was a good presentation last night. Did you guys stay up for it? Okay. So received the Baylands, the BDI Baylands Specific Plan presentation at our October 2025 Complete Streets Safety Committee meeting and provided comments. And if I can just really quick talk about what the Transportation Authority, what Patrick mentioned, aside from the grant,
Could you
is
identify who Patrick is?
Patrick Gilster with the SMCTA. He is one of the managers on the, I believe, the funding side.
Okay, thank you.
so I won't get into the discussion and what his thoughts were for our region, but Geneva, the interchange especially was mentioned, and I had mentioned at the meeting that I realized that regionally we are working with San Francisco for the Baylands project and the interchange and whatever else, the multi-model, whatever is going to happen out there. But when the grant was mentioned through San Mateo County and the authority, I asked if maybe San Francisco also had the same type of grant program to provide the money that.
If I just may add, so the topic was on a 101 corridor transit studies. So Patrick Gilster with the TA came and presented to the Complete Street Safety Committee. We do have them on the calendar. I don't remember exactly when, but they are also coming to City Council. So you'll hear that more directly. And the wonderful news was that there's opportunities for funding to do some project study reports. So there's opportunities for funding to move forward on some of the interchanges and how that deals with transit and connectivity. So that'll be coming up for council.
Yeah, thank you, Boz. I was just going to get to that. That's helpful information. And that's the point I was getting at, is that a lot of stuff is coming down the line that's going to be really helpful. So, okay. Next. Looking forward, Complete Street Safety Committee meeting draft 2026 work plan. So, this is what we came up with, Madam Mayor, when we met you and Councilmember Kern about where we were, and what we had was a rough plan, right? So now here's the plan. So number one, finalize the Complete Street Safety Committee recommendation to address speeding and overall traffic safety issues on Visitation Avenue and continue evaluating and recommending traffic safety improvements along Visitation Avenue and San Bruno Avenue. Through the cycle 5, San Mateo County Office of Education School Travel Fellowship evaluate and recommend safety improvements plans for Brisbane Elementary School that advance the safe routes to school program goals. And am I supposed to talk about anything in particular, like when we're going to meet with the school right now, or is that? Okay. Well, we're going to be meeting with the county at the end of the month at the school to come up with a plan with some possible money that the county has to facilitate improvements. Okay. So number 3, evaluate commercial truck circulation patterns and identify opportunities to improve freight mobility and safety. Those are things that we're working on, and you know what the issues are with some of the trucks. And that improvement that was made out here on Old County by moving the yellow zone to where it's not in the turn and it's in the straightaway was a good improvement. So, and you guys are going to ask questions after, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, let's see. Yeah, okay. Number 4, conduct a citywide audit of sidewalk conditions and needs, crosswalk conditions, and tree-related site obstructions. That's going to be a big deal. We understand that a lot of what should be done won't be done or couldn't be done, and for a lot of reasons, but some of the things that really do make a big difference are the tree-related site obstructions, bushes and stuff like that from certain areas. And we are going to be working on that. The audit will be done by ourselves, members of the committee, and members of Public Works. And maybe we get Jeremy out there, get some steps in. So, number 5, conduct a citywide safety and infrastructure review of bicycle routes. That's also part of the help that the County Transportation Authority is interested in doing. Talking about, Lagoon Road and Sierra Point and other areas, because they do have plans for 1 mile on either side of the highway. That's their jurisdiction, trying to make connections, so. Number 6, evaluate wayfinding signage for effectiveness and identify locations for additions incorporating input from the Public Arts Advisory Committee. That's it? Okay, here's Maz.
Thank you so much for hearing this presentation. We're happy to answer any questions.
Okay. I just was going to say, before we start off, Councilmember Kern and I had the pleasure of meeting with both Paul and Emily and Moss, and it was a real pleasure. They take their job very seriously. They're very motivated. They have lots and lots of ideas. If anything, we had to kind of rein them in a little because there's only 1 year on this work plan. But if they go racing through it, I think, speaking for Councilmember Kern, we'd be happy to meet with you again and see you do even more things, because these are important issues that you're looking into. And it's really helpful that the council can depend on you to take a closer look and make recommendations and gather those statistics for all the things that, as Paul, you referred to, some of these things slip through the cracks. We get really busy. So that being said, let's take some council questions, starting with Councilmember O'Connell.
No questions at this time.
All right, Councilmember Lentz.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, Paul, thank you for the great presentation and the work that you and your colleagues do on behalf of the city. Obviously, based upon this work plan and what you've accomplished over the year, is pretty impressive, and I'm looking forward to the next items on the agenda. I do have 2 questions, and when I look at the work plan, I think of we've gotten some comments from members of the Northeast Ridge regarding speeding on Mission Blue. So, I think, your meeting at the library was fantastic. I know you got a great turnout, and sometimes it's really important that you go to where people are instead of having them come to City Hall. And so, just as a suggestion, maybe having some kind of meeting at the Mission Blue Center or at one of the clubhouses to talk about some traffic and safety related issues there. And then the Crocker Park Trail. I know that some of the recommendations in the master plan, talk about safety, because there's some pretty dangerous street crossings for the trail. And so now that I think the CEQA work has already been completed or pretty near completion, that we can start, assigning some, some priorities to that to make the trail safer when people cross those busy streets.
That was one of the primary concerns about the bushes obstructing view of vehicles and people approaching the crosswalks, because, even though the signs are there, as you know, even the flashing signs some of those vehicles come around those corners, especially on South Hill, and
It's tough.
they can't see it until they're like already at the crosswalk. So yeah, that's our plan.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Kern?
Thank you so much for the presentation, both of you. So number 5 on the 2026 work plan, when you guys are taking a look at the bicycle routes, are you considering the popularity of e-bikes? And is that something that you're going to build into whatever plan you develop for that?
We didn't talk about that, but I'm sure Chris and Maz have been meeting up with each other, so you might talk to him about that. And Chris is an idea, but if you're referring to e-bikes on the Crocker Trail, it's been said that they drive awfully fast and they can, be dangerous when they pass people with their dogs, and that's true. But pedaled bikes just go just as fast on that trail, and there are inconsiderate people that ride their bikes past people on the trail. It's not cool, but is that what you're referring to with e-bikes on the Crocker Trail?
I just want to make sure that they were being considered. My question was, were you going to consider them? I want to make sure that they are considered when you're working on that plan.
Oh, I don't know. I thought e-bikes were allowed just like any other bicycle in a bike lane.
Yeah, through the chair, if I may, I think that's an important component. I think a lot of the bicycle and pedestrian master plans that have been adopted over the years, the last one was for Brisbane was 2017, which is about the time that a lot of other jurisdictions did the same. Obviously, the technology's changed. So I think when we look at our update to those policies, looking at e-bikes as one component of that is going to be critical. So yes, to your point, I would expect to be looking at that as part of the overall analysis.
Thank you. No further questions at this time.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Davis?
I only have comments.
Okay. I'm just going to bring up the e-bike issue in that some of what may need to pause on that is that Assemblymember Pappen is working with CCAG and various CCAG committees. They're trying to parse out how to make e-bikes safer through some legislation that are limiting e-bikes that are being modified to go way beyond the stated capacity. And that will parse out with some state laws. But I do have one thing I'd like you, if you could, to clarify. Number 2 on this work plan about Cycle 5, Travel Fellowship, Brisbane Elementary School, a little bit about what those funds are available to do.
Absolutely. Happy to do that. So this grant cycle, this is the first time Brisbane's doing it. This is the cycle 5, so the 5th year for the program. It's through the County Office of Education. The intent of this program is to get schools and jurisdictions, local municipalities together to look at solutions comprehensively that will promote biking and walking to school, which means safety enhancements and other things of that nature. So we actually submitted an application and were awarded a place at the table. And so we're part of a group of other jurisdictions working in the same timeline. And what's going to come out of the efforts here are a couple of different things, a lot of outreach and communication and conversations. As Paul was mentioning, we will have more information coming out, but we will be meeting with at the elementary school with the principal. Sean Higgins is very involved. We also are going to be having our Complete Street Safety Committee be a platform for those meetings to promote encourage folks, residents as well as parents, to engage with the community on issues and concerns that they see. Ultimately, what we would be looking at are soft improvements. So think of things that are a little bit more on the temporary side, kind of like what we have done in Five Corners about a year ago. And so ultimately, that's what would come out of this effort. And after a trial period, if those improvements are once they're reviewed after a certain period of time, about a year, and we will have a reflection period where we would consider if there's any modifications or whatnot. But ultimately, the goal would be to trial to this trial with the soft improvements and then go with more permanent improvements. Going through this program also helps set us up for grant funding towards those final improvements in the future. But yes, I do want to make it clear that the hard improvements are not part of this grant process, but it will set us up nicely for those funds in the future.
Yeah, I would just say through CCAG meetings, I've learned of different cities that went through these trials, and they were able to prove that certain temporary modifications they made were really very successful, and they got grant funding from it. So it's a
Absolutely.
real bonus that we can participate in this.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much. Wonderful presentation, lots of information. So council discussion, they're asking for approval of this draft 2026 work plan. Let's start with Councilmember Kern.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to thank the Complete Streets Committee for the work that you do. It's taken very seriously by this council. You do not have an easy job. You're all volunteers, and people come to you with exceptionally passionate opinions. A lot of the other committees and commissions don't get people quite as passionate. So thank you for everything that you do. I also really appreciate that you guys are so data-driven, and I really think that helps you guide us through that. So with that being said, I think the work plan looks pretty fantastic. I know that I have the pleasure of serving with Mayor Mackin on the Complete Streets Committee as the council liaison. So we already talked this through, and I think that you guys are in super good shape here. I also want to mention that I serve with Councilmember Lentz on the age-friendly subcommittee, and a lot of the work that you're doing here benefits that group of people too, especially those crosswalks on the Crocker Park Trail, which you mentioned cars are flying along pretty quickly. So thank you for that. Thank you for answering my question on the e-bikes as well. There's just one other thing I want to point out, and I know that when we talked about this in our meeting, number 4, and that was conducting the citywide audit of sidewalks, I got super excited. And I just wanted to throw this out there as one additional thing to think about. In 2018, Euro NCAP started adopting something called TSR in cars. That stands for traffic sign recognition. So Volkswagens and Volvos came forward with that in 2018. It became a much more widely adopted technology in 2022. If you have a car newer than 2022, it generally has TSR as part of its safety systems. I have driven around town. My car's a 2024. And there are street signs that my car cannot recognize because they are obstructed. So, generally speaking, the car will present the sign on the dashboard. The car does have a brain that can react based upon the sign. It reads street signs, it reads stop signs, and there are stop signs in town that are obstructed that my car can't see. That also means that Waymo can't see them. So, as you guys are working your way down that path, the technology is called TSR. My car's available if you want to use it to test it out. I just want to call that out, that's something that I hope you'll be taking into consideration when you're looking at the obstructions. Otherwise, I think this plan looks pretty solid. Thank you.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Davis?
Yes. Thanks to the committee for all the work that you've done. I just had a couple comments. We had a gentleman come tonight with concerns about Tulare. And those concerns are so valid. We all know everything he said to be true. So I'm wondering if, the council wants to suggest that as an item to add, or I don't know if it can be encompassed within another item, but I think that it's something that, whether it's this year or next year, I would love for the committee to evaluate how we can make Tulare safer. And then another item that I've heard Mitch Bull talk a lot about a roundabout at the 5 points. And so I think if we're going to keep talking about that, we should evaluate whether that's feasible or not. And it sounds like staff maybe has done some preliminary work to evaluate a roundabout there.
They have.
But that, again, I don't know if that could be encompassed in as a segment of one of these topics, but it's something that I think would definitely need a lot of community outreach because people have strong feelings about roundabouts. So just a comment. And I just really want to call out your inclusion of public art. I think we really like to see, at least for me, I like to see when commissions and committees work together, and that's something we've really been promoting over the last year. So to see you wanting to look at wayfinding and pulling in the Public Art Committee as part of that process, I think it's great. Like, the more that our committees and commissions work together, I think the better the work product. So would just continue to encourage, the committee to find ways to collaborate with other commissions and committees as you see fit. But otherwise, I think it looks great.
If I may. So regarding the roundabout, there was talk about a roundabout, or there is, and public art is also being talked about for the roundabout. So
Yes, I heard.
that kind of rhymed. So the concerns that our community member up on Tulare had regarding the trucks and the cars, and every street we have that. Every single street. I mean, it's true. His street is a dead end street that creates issues with having to move out of the way. But we all have to do that on every street. And I mean, there have been requests for speed bumps in neighborhoods, and it's been proven that certain slopes and certain things in certain areas aren't areas that speed bumps would work at. But that's a tough one. Enforcement's difficult, and lowering the speed limits, as you know, it doesn't change people's driving habits. And I think everybody on all our streets can say that people drive way too fast, and the trucks drive way too fast, and there's too many trucks. So I feel for him up there, and that's a common complaint, as you know. So, but direct them to our committee so we can work with them.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Lentz.
Thank you. Again, Paul, yeah, great presentation. Awesome work that the committee's doing. I didn't know about the TSR. I thought that was a great comment, Frank, and I hope that's something that you guys, like, really keep in mind as you're looking at these intersections. You want to make sure that the signs are clearly visible. The Tulare situation that was brought up by the community member, Jimmy Sosa. Just kind of thinking, you said, Paul, it's on every street. And so, just keeping in mind about traffic calming. How do we calm folks down? I mean, really, in the end, that's what it kind of is. Obviously, we can't be in their car and tell them, don't be distracted by this or that. But if there are things that help, we should try and implement them. And I do remember the roundabout discussion. When was that, Terry? As a council, we talked about.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. It's been, But I think that's something that we should explore. And if the council is, interested in providing that direction, I think it'd be pretty cool. So, especially with the art piece.
If I may, what I learned about the roundabout's effectiveness is at four-way intersections, they're really effective. At a five-way intersection, they're super effective. And the five-way intersections are something they don't design now. They're just too confusing to drivers, who's turning, who's doing what. And so Moz and engineering's working on a concept that I'm sure will could be effective.
Yeah. No, you're right. When you're at that intersection, sometimes it's difficult to know whose turn it is. You forget. Oh, did I? Right. There's a lot going on. So, yeah, great work plan, and I'm in favor of it.
Okay. Councilmember O'Connell.
Thanks for all the work you and Public Works and the whole committee have done. I think that this is a very ambitious work plan as it sits. I've heard my council members want to add to it, and I think that I would be really astounded if you could give all your attention to these 6 items. And I would hope that the council wasn't inferring to add more things to your plate with their suggestions they made. So I'm happy with the work plan as it stands. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to add the comment that a committee that meets once a month, it's very hard to get through this many items in a year. And while talking about these topics brings up all kinds of other things that you say, oh, we could deal with this, and we could deal with that, some of this will have to go directly through to Moz for city engineering, public works to deal with. But the issue at hand is what we felt was potentially manageable for them to tackle this year. I applaud the items that they submitted to the liaisons for review. And so really what we're dealing with is, do we have consensus for them to proceed on these 6 items? So,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yep,
yes.
yep.
Okay, I'm seeing nods all over. We don't have to vote, but it sounds like you've got approval of the council, and we wish you best, and we appreciate all that you do, and Moz as well for your direction, and look forward to hearing back from you on your success at the end of the year. So thank you for all your very hard work and serious endeavors on this. It's very meaningful, so. All right. Next item we have is item K, Complete Street Safety Committee again. These are recommendations for the Visitation Avenue Corridor Safety and Operations, and staff report, please.
Good evening again, Madam Mayor, members of the council and public. Again, Moz Bozerguinia, Public Works. I'll keep this brief tonight. The staff report outlines a lot of details, but at a high level, this item before you tonight is really about the direction that we're looking for with respect to prioritization of improvements along the Visitation Avenue corridor. This effort started back in March of 2025. There was a very horrific accident that claimed the life of a resident. And with that, the concerns were related to the Complete Streets Safety Committee from the City Council. And since then, there's been quite a bit of community outreach, including a survey for residents with about 130 responses, and multiple discussions held at the committee level, as well as conversations at the council level, and all culminating within a recent community meeting this past February. What we heard consistently from residents and businesses is that the issues along the corridor are layered. It's not just one problem. It's a combination of speeding, double parking, stop sign compliance, regulatory concerns, circulation challenges, and pedestrian safety. Through that process, the recommendations have really fallen into 4 categories, each addressing different parts of the issue. The first is the pedestrian safety, which includes more permanent capital-style improvements like curb extensions, raised crosswalks, and enhanced crossing treatments. These tend to be more durable solutions, but they also have higher costs and generally longer implementation timelines. The second is about traffic flow and circulation. These are more operational in nature, so we're looking at things like red curb improvements, which I'm happy to state that next Thursday, there's a volunteer effort to start some red curb paintings along some areas where AB 413 daylighting law is a concern. So we're kicking that off as we speak. But they also touched on loading zones, designated pickup and drop off areas. These are, again, generally to be implemented a little quicker at lower costs. But they don't fully address all the safety concerns on their own. The third category is enforcement. This area is really focused on behavior. It's addressing issues like double parking and stop sign compliance through coordination with our police department. These measures can be effective, but they require ongoing resources as well as consistency in application. And the fourth comes to parking supply and management, including looking at opportunities to add or better manage parking, such as the potential use of the former teen center site. This can help relieve some of the pressure, but it's more localized in its impact. So to recap, there's not a single solution here. Each of these categories addresses a different aspect of what we're seeing and what we're hearing about from residents and businesses along this corridor. Tonight, what we're looking for is direction from council on which of these areas the city should prioritize to move forward on, whether that's focusing on capital improvements, operational changes, enforcement strategies, or parking supply concerns. Based on that direction, the staff will come back with more detailed analysis on each one. Better cost refinement. We did provide a matrix that was a Complete Streets ask for staff to come up with some basic costs so they understand what some of these components would look like. But again, we would further refine that and come back with some implementation options. I'll leave it at that, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Let's start with Councilmember Lentz.
Okay. Thank you, Maz, for the presentation. You finished with, potential costs, and then made me think, we're going to be, potentially implementing a TDM impact fee. So many of these things that you've listed here, if the city did have an impact fee in that area, could those funds be used for some of these improvements?
We'd have to take a closer look at that. I think some of them could be. When we look at the type of fee, it really have to be focused on the type of structure. Is it a capacity increasing fee, or is it an operational and improvement component? So it's something for us to consider. I don't have a direct answer on that yet, but we could definitely look into that.
Okay. And then, in regards to the raised crosswalks, so I looked online to see some examples, and they tended to be like a straight road, and then there's a crosswalk in the middle of the road, just one, but never an I didn't see any intersections, and maybe I'm a rotten, Google AI, search person, but so can you just kind of go through what that might look like? I mean, it seems like you'd have to raise one crosswalk and then the one on the other side, and would you be going up and down through
Right.
each intersection?
No, that's a great comment. So a lot of times you see those raised crosswalks as mid blocks because it basically acts as a speed table. It acts like a speed hump. So you have advance warning to a vehicle that it's not just a crosswalk, but there's a grade change so that it requires them to slow down. There's markings on the pavement that allude to that speed hump, essentially, as well as the crossing. But yes, usually you've seen it there because it becomes very redundant when you do it at an intersection because you're doing it, which leg do you do it on? So a lot of times you do see that more on mid blocks and not quite as much on intersections themselves. But it could be an opportunity if we identify it and engineer it correctly. It could be done.
All right. I guess it could be a platform.
Yeah. So essentially, you would basically raise up the crosswalk. You would be level with the ADA ramps, so it would be pretty much a smooth because we have to, ADA is important too. We don't want to lose that. So you would raise up the speed hump, the speed table, essentially the crosswalk. The grades would match on each end, and it would be kind of a relatively flat surface for somebody walking or rolling across the street. So that's what the way it would be applied.
Okay. All right. And then the pedestrian activated flashing beacons, that's basically press the button, lights flash, and people walk across.
Yeah, and
That's what it is.
the reason why there's two estimates in there on that because there are smaller rapid flashing beacons that you would see on a residential street. Again, mostly you would look towards mid-block crossings for those types of improvements. But we also have larger ones that you would see on like Bayshore, where you have the kind of the mast arm that comes out with flashing. That's meant for higher speed traffic.
Yeah.
That's where the costs are different when you're talking about having that mast arm that goes across multiple lanes. that's where that cost increase comes from.
Okay. And then, people have talked about having stop signs at every intersection on visitation, and I didn't see that in here, and so I'm curious why that wasn't the case.
That's a good point. I mean, we have looked at stop signs, and we are currently looking at a couple of intersections where it may warrant to have additional stop control. I think when we talk about speeding and safety, it is there are a lot of tools there. Stop signs are heavily they're heavily overseen through the California Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So there are 5 established warrants that need to be met. It doesn't mean that we won't look at it, but it's a little bit more subjective to state standards and federal standards. So that's the reason why we didn't incorporate it here. But it's something that we will look at from the perspective of demand and need.
But we could apply a Brisbane standard.
Well, that's the challenge. So there is a concern with liability. If you do not meet the warrants that are state adopted, there could be liability if we put a stop sign where it's not warranted.
That could also be the case with no U-turn signs?
No, that's a little bit different. The stop signs are very heavily controlled devices, and there's been a lot of case law with respect to how those that created what those warrants come up with. They look at volume, they look at visibility, and a number of other factors. So that's where it's the intersection control that's really the concern. The no U-turns are more those don't have the same level of oversight that a stop control would.
Okay, because we have one, I believe. I think, but only one, no U-turn sign and I forgot the intersection.
Mariposa.
Yeah.
Okay, so why that one and not others?
That's a great question. I think that's part of if we look as we start looking at formalized improvements to this corridor, those are things that we'd be looking at.
I can answer that question.
All right, and that's my last. I do have some other ones, but I'm going to let other council members ask questions too.
Okay.
The no U-turn at Mariposa and Visitation was implemented when we put the bulb out and the press button for the crosswalk that was hugely unpopular, and it would mean that anyone attempting a U-turn, if it had a larger turning radius, would go over the hump.
Yeah.
And so that was a hugely expensive and unpopular signal to put in. And it has fallen into disuse for the push button light and stuff there. But that was the reason there was no U-turn. It was physically very difficult for vehicles to make a U-turn.
That makes sense. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Councilmember O'Connell, you want to just go next then?
No, I think that this is an age-old problem where perception is coming from the public and from when you're standing on the street, the vehicle passing you always feels like it's going faster than what you would feel comfortable if you weren't standing on the street. Even when it's a reasonable or posted speed limit that a car is going, it just feels that way because you're so much smaller than the vehicle. And while it's probably not in this context a very popular thing to say, most of the time we don't have vehicles double parked. There's a couple hours during the day that we do, a couple times during the day. So it's difficult to try to solve problems where everyone perceives the problem as something different. But I really am not the person to know which is going to be the best solution here. I think it's going to need more study, just like the roundabout being a difficult thing, and it may need more space than we have. So where are we going to steal that space from? But for the most part, other than that horrific accident we had a couple years ago, we've been very, and we'll call it lucky, maybe it is just luck, but I think we do have very safe streets as far as our main corridor. And it's just that stretch of visitation is 5 blocks of straight, which we also have on San Bruno Avenue, without too much of a grade. And so it is one of the few opportunities where people will see people progressing for quite a ways and really see what they perceive as bad driving habits or unsafe conditions. So it's a difficult thing, but no, I don't have any real questions or suggestions on how to make it safer or what projects I would be more in favor of.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Can you explain more about curb extensions? What that is?
It's another way of stating bulb outs. So it's the same concept. It's where you bring the curb around an area where somebody would be going off. It could be at the intersection or mid-block. So it's essentially pushing out the ADA ramp to a more prominent location where folks are more visible when they're crossing.
I see. And then I see on the teen center lot, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Has staff thought about how we would enforce, since we aren't really keen on enforcing, dedicating somebody to do that? I'm curious how we're going to make sure that people don't park there after 8 p.m. Maybe is it an automatic gate? Because I have suspicion that currently there's a lot of people parking there from the adjacent apartment building and other homes nearby that have now used that kind of as like their personal parking lot. So I think we would definitely need it. Or maybe, would we charge? Will we have meters there? I don't know. I mean, it seems like a place that you could get away with charging for parking. I don't know if that's, a lot of investment. If the council is planning to use that site for something else, it may just be cheaper to just stripe it and level it. So I don't know. Has that been something that you guys have discussed?
We have. So I can share that when this item came up as part of the conversation, I did mention that there's some development that was being discussed that might impact that. So it was an area where we were uncertain whether that this area would even be feasible under the recommendation from council. I agree. I think when you're looking at the 4 categories that we're asking for feedback tonight as far as where we should be focusing our attention, given that we've got multiple layers of concern that kind of culminate into this larger corridor discussion, enforcement strategies and that parking supply management, I think those 3 and 4 go hand in hand. So whether that is, if that's the direction, then that would be where we would work with our police department. There have been numbers that have been generated from third-party companies that could come out and help with parking management and enforcement. It's on the order of magnitude about $75,000 a year for 5 days a week service. So there is a cost to it. But if we were to explore the supply, I would say those 3 and 4, they would go hand in hand.
Okay. Those are my only questions. The rest I have is comment.
Okay, Councilmember Kern.
Yeah, Maz, 2 questions. One's a little out there, so I'll start with the more direct one. So when I take 101 down to San Bruno Avenue, I exit San Bruno Avenue, and I drive westbound on San Bruno Avenue, they have some sort of solution on San Bruno Avenue, which is that's 4 lanes across total with parking on either side. They have beacons that are in the street they're in the concrete, so when the person pushes it, a stripe lights up across the road. Does that sort of solution fall into either one of these pedestrian beacons that you have here in your estimates? You said something about an arm. I heard that earlier.
No, the beacons we were talking about were more for crossing movements. You're talking about parking management?
No, I'm talking about crossing. So they push the button and the street actually lights up.
So actually that form of technology has been around for a little while. It came up about 20 years ago. We could certainly look at that. I will just share that my experience has been that they are not reliable, and there's a high cost for replacement. So those lights will go out more. I think, I don't know if it's because they're in the pavement, they're getting the vehicle load over it, or whatnot. But my experience in implementing those has been that they generally don't last as long. So you end up spending a lot of time and energy replacing them, which is why a lot of folks have gone back to the more traditional beacons on the sides. We can certainly look at it if the technology's changed.
Through the chair, water intrusion is a huge issue for those lights based on the ground.
Okay.
And there was a lot of proprietary technology in the past too that made it really challenging, because all of a sudden one of the providers goes out of business, and then you're basically, there's no parts, you're basically replacing everything. That was another challenge we had in the past.
Got it. Okay. They're highly visible, which is the reason I asked the question.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Angel, can you present the image here? I am looking at your blue striped sheet here, and you've got painting ladder types of crosswalks. So I visited Iceland, and I could talk for days about Iceland. This is a crosswalk in Iceland that they're doing some experimentation with, and it's called a 3D crosswalk. It's not. It's flat. It's painted, but it tricks the mind. Even when you know it's there and you've driven over it 100 times, it slows you down because the brain is like, that is an obstacle. So I'm just wondering, you've got $2,000 per crosswalk to paint. Can you do this for $2,000?
That's a good question. I'll be honest. I've never had a contract shot. I don't know how much it would cost, but yeah, this concept's really interesting. I've also, it's funny. I've also seen I don't think it's in the U.S., but I've seen in European countries where they've painted fake potholes, and that's also slowed folks down in certain places. But I mean, yeah, if that's the direction as far as markings, we can certainly look into that. And I think, yeah, that's another opportunity to involve public art.
Thank you. That's all that I have.
That's for sure a public art opportunity. It doesn't have to be like
Painted
bricks
with
like
the
that.
human on it too.
Right.
Okay, on those 3D crosswalks, I'm going to put a kibosh. If you have elderly with depth perception, you could have people falling because they can't resolve the spatial problem. Even though it's really cool looking, I get it. It's nice, it's art, I get that. But that is a problem because different grocery stores started doing things in their aisles and they all stopped because people were falling. As elderly people, sometimes at 80s and 90s, their depth perception completely goes and they can't resolve that in their vision.
I
So,
wonder if that looks like that though, because that's what you would be seeing if you were driving in the street versus what you're seeing if you're a pedestrian at a crosswalk. I don't know
don't know.
that would be the case.
So I'm going to go quickly with questions because we're getting later here. So crosswalks, the raised crosswalks are expensive. Stop signs are certainly cheaper, but I'm going to put in a word for the raised crosswalks. Not only would it slow down the cars, it provides a little bit better protection for the pedestrians. It would slow down the people turning around corners without stopping because there are blind spots. And it would curtail a lot of U-turners because they couldn't go zipping around in those intersections, because I've seen that where people almost hit pedestrians in the crosswalks. So I know they're expensive. That would be number one on my list, is raised crosswalks. As far as teen center parking, Mayor Pro Tem brought that up. What I would do is, if we want to make spaces on visitation, allow business people to park. If we actually did a teen center parking lot, give them a permit for 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And after that, anybody could park there. But during the daytime, you'd have an assigned space You'd have to have a permit?
Are we in discussion?
No, I'm asking questions. And then also, we had a letter from a resident that was talking about taking spaces and utilizing public spaces for certain companies as loading zones. And so I'd like your thoughts on that, in that, could we not instead do 10-minute parking, which effectively is a loading zone for anyone? But, and so you say, well, who's going to enforce it? Well, if someone's parking there for a couple hours, you call the police, they get tagged. That's simple. I don't know if that's a solution. Have you thought about that? Or green curbs? I mean, San Francisco with their green curbs.
Yeah, we have so the buffet list of items that we put together were based on the request from our Complete Street Safety Committee to look at all of the different options that are available to us. There's more still out there. That's not a complete list, but yeah, we can certainly look at creating that. That was a concept, was to provide delivery spaces. But yeah, I mean, if we look at having 10-minute parking, we can do that. But I will share that we did have residents that came to our public meeting that voiced concern with enforcement of that. So whatever we do, that is always going to be a challenge. I think near the coffee shop in town, there is I think is it a 24-minute loading parking space that I heard from residents that has never been enforced. I think that's been out there for over 10 years, so longer than that. So that's what we heard.
So on the raised crosswalks, going back, there was a question in there. I'm thinking of 3 intersections. Is that what you were considering, or just doing 1, or just doing 2? What?
If it's favorable to do something, what we would like to do as far as the capital improvement side of this goes is to look at this area as a whole, look at the corridor as a whole, and really look at different opportunities in different spaces. So we may decide to do, depending on vehicle movements, we may decide this area makes more sense. If that's the direction of council, what we would do is go and do more engineering work on that and come back with a full plan. It's not going to be just kind of like, we're not looking at just saying, okay, this one, we're just going to sprinkle these things here and here. We're going to look at this corridor as a whole, do a little bit more analysis, and come back with a thought out plan on every intersection and how they kind of all work together. That would be the next step for us if that's where the council would like us to spend our energy.
And last question, and I can almost answer it. Has anyone ever utilized, and again, and we've heard all the things about using too much signage can be detrimental, actually, but has anyone ever utilized signage saying double parking subject to fines? And list what the fine is, just to start warning people.
Yeah, we can. I mean, yeah, you're right. There is having oversaturation of signs. They end up losing their benefit. But placed in the right locations where it's necessary, we can certainly look into that. One of the things that was also here, I didn't go into the specifics, but there's also comments about raising the fines for some of these things. So that's another option for us to look into.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Do we have any members of the public wishing to comment or ask questions? I see some raised hands. I don't know who was first.
I'm not sure either. Michelle
Okay.
Salmon?
Michelle, go ahead. Michelle, we're not hearing you. You're muted.
I had to wait till the unmute sign came up. I have very definite opinions about this. I worked on Visitation Avenue from the time I was 14 till I was 24 at the Brisbane Library when it was next to Midtown. So I've seen it all. I've driven the road since before I knew how to drive, and I've hiked it, walked it before we had sidewalks or gutters or anything. And one of the things that I see as serious problems is the double parking, the U-turns mid-block over a double yellow line to get a parking place, the backwards U-turns over the double yellow line because you want to go uphill and you're parked downhill. And it's ridiculous. I mean, that is a real serious danger. My personal opinion is I think there should be a stop sign at every intersection. Every intersection should be enabled to make a U-turn in a normal sized car, which is what I always do. If you want to change directions and go downhill when you're going uphill. And I think we should enforce the 2-hour parking, have 2-hour parking during business hours, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. You know, I mean, there's a green Volkswagen that's been parked in front of Mamma Mia's for fucking years. It sat there for months with a tow bar on it. Now it sits there again. That is public parking. Why are they allowed to park 24/7 for weeks and weeks and months on end? That's ridiculous. That's why there's no parking. People park for 10 days on the main street. I think it should be 2-hour parking enforced for business hours. I think special permits should be issued to the maybe 4 people who live on visitation that don't have a garage or a driveway, for a single car. But we don't even enforce it. And all we've done is reinforce bad behavior over the last 10, 15 years. When I worked at the library, they ticketed you for making a U-turn into a parking spot over a double yellow line. My husband got a $300 ticket in South City for doing that many years ago. So I think we have a lot of problems. The intersection at Mariposa, when they put in those bulb outs and that just made it way worse. So I really advocate for a stop sign at every intersection, being allowed to make a U-turn in the intersection, and not being allowed to make a U-turn over the double yellow line in the middle, and enforcing a 2-hour parking limit during business hours, and no double parking. No double parking. I've come up visitation where a car's double parked on one side and a car's double parked on the other side, and you cannot go anywhere. You cannot go around them. Or you start to go around them and somebody's zooming down the hill. It's really, we've created a dangerous situation. We need to honor the merchants and help them with this. It's no wonder. And I just want to say the whole pay parking thing, I shop a lot on San Mateo Avenue in San Bruno, and they went to this, pay parking thing. It has ruined many of their businesses. Now I throw 3 quarters in, I rush in, I grab what I want and leave, and I don't shop. And there's 3 stores there that I usually frequent, and I don't go there anymore. And businesses are all suffering. You drive down that street and there's all this parking now because no one shops there anymore. They have sabotaged themselves with their pay for parking program. It's a nightmare for the people who own businesses there. So I think we really need to look at this both from a perspective of the business owners and encouraging business and stopping bad habits like double parking and making a U-turn over the double yellow line to get a parking place. No, that's wrong. We shouldn't be allowing that. And it's going to take a couple of months of serious enforcement to make people learn that they can't do that. And God damn it, get the green Volkswagen off of Main Street. If I had a business on Main Street, I would not want to be parking in front of my business because that prevents a customer from parking in front of your business. That's just bad behavior. Sorry to rant about this, but it's been a sore spot for me for a really long time. Visitation Avenue is a nightmare. And San Bruno Avenue should have a stop sign at every intersection, too. That's how you really calm traffic. That's my opinion. Thank you for listening.
Okay. Christina?
Okay, finally got the unmute button. I just wanted to comment on the anamorphic crosswalks. That's what the name is for that illusion that Councilmember Kern had suggested. And I just want to point out that it only works from one direction. So the concern about people stumbling over them or such, it doesn't really apply because they only make that sense, that particular illusion, from a single direction. If you're familiar with Hans Holbein's The Ambassadors, which has that strange blob across the bottom, unless you're looking at it from a very, very specific angle, it was designed to only be observable from a staircase. And then you can see the skull that's in the painting. So I just wanted to point out that that's not an issue. Thank you.
Okay. Diana S.
You council, Complete Streets Safety Committee, and Moz would just like to comment on a few things here. One of the things I've noticed, I know the Complete Streets Safety Committee was formed as a requirement by California several years ago, and one of the things they were supposed to look at was safe routes to schools. And as a result of their studies, we had medallions placed in sidewalks throughout the community for safe routes to schools. I walk central Brisbane quite a bit, and I've noticed that several of these blue medallions that are embedded in the sidewalks have disappeared. I don't know if it's a question of adhesives or someone's pulled them up, but I would like to ask that maybe not this year, because I know Complete Streets has quite a full schedule of things they need to look at, that maybe they can look at those again and replace those missing medallions. The other thing, I thank you so much to Paul Buscal and Councilmember Lentz about mentioning the roundabout potential at the five-way stop. I live on the San Bruno Speedway, and coming down there to go to the five-way stop to turn anywhere is terrifying. People don't stop coming down Visitation, and sometimes coming up from by the park, they don't stop. So I'd be fully into exploring a roundabout down there because it's terrifying. The other thing, I called into the meeting that the Complete Streets Safety Committee had at the library, which was very informative. And one of the things that they talked about there was, I brought up was U-turns on Visitation. I mean, Councilmember O'Connell mentioned that the reason there's one no U-turn sign has to do with bulb outs. I mean, honestly, and Councilmember Davis talked about people doing backwards U-turns up Visitation. It's very terrifying. You're driving up there very slowly or walking, and everyone does U-turns both ways in those intersections, every intersection. There really, I think, should be absolutely no U-turns allowed on Visitation Avenue at all. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other members of the public, City Clerk? I don't see any. No?
No,
Okay.
Madam Mayor. Oh, one more hand from Michelle Salmon.
Michelle, is this necessary? We gave you lots of time. Let's,
Necessary. I just want to say it's not the U-turns in the intersection that's the problem. I've been doing that since I learned how to drive. It's the intersections in the middle of the street that is the problem. And I was the one who talked about the backwards U-turns out of parking places, not the council. So I really think intersections should be allowed to make a legal U-turn in our intersections on Main Street. I do it all the time. Otherwise, you have to go all the way around and go in, streets that are not business streets. So being allowed to make a U-turn at a legal U-turn at an intersection, I think should be. But making illegal U-turns over the double yellow line between intersections should not be allowed.
okay. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, council discussion. Let us start with Councilmember O'Connell.
I don't think that us sitting here talking about this is going to solve a problem. And I do think that it really needs to be initiated by the professionals that know how to solve problems, and that would be Public Works. I don't think it should be directives from us on how to do that. because we aren't the experts. I think that we will see or hear from our constituents about what they like and they don't like, but I don't think we're the one to make those I'm at least qualified to make those decisions on what direction is going to be most effective.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Davis?
I mean, I definitely appreciate the suite of options. And if this continues to another meeting, it would be great to have staff prioritize solutions that they think are going to be the most effective. And maybe prioritizing ones that aren't as expensive. But sometimes the most effective solution is the expensive solution. So if you're going to do it, you just do it right. That being said, for my personal preference, which again, I'm not an expert, I think the raised crosswalks is a good idea. I think it will help curb speeding on visitation. And I know, I mean, they kind of act like speed bumps and everyone wants speed bumps, but then are they really effective? I think they would be good here. I think they would also maybe give more visibility of pedestrians to drivers, which is beneficial. And I think high visibility crosswalks and goes hand in hand with that. And if we can get creative with art as part of that, that is an added bonus. I think we absolutely need loading zones, and I wouldn't say that loading zones are necessary in a retail corridor, in a business corridor. So if we want to have Midtown, if we want to have businesses, they're going to be getting deliveries, and there needs to be a place for those trucks to park. They have been parking on visitation, and they've been double parking. And to me, like when they were parking in front of Midtown, that was always super dangerous because those trucks are really big and it limits the visibility. And they're so long that you're taking a risk if you're going around, a truck parked in front of Madhouse and someone else is coming from Monterey, and they come around the corner and they couldn't see that you're there, so you can have a head-on collision really easily there. So to me, the double parking is a huge problem, especially with those big trucks, and a loading zone will help that. It's also just for a short period of time, 6 to 8 a.m. and 12 to 2. I mean, and that seems to be when businesses have said that would help them. Yeah. It's just a short period of time. So I think the trade-off is beneficial. The designation of transportation network company delivery or pickup driver spots, I don't think we need to call out that this is like a DoorDash spot. I think we would benefit from having another 24-minute or 10-minute, whatever you want to call it, parking spot between Monterey and Mariposa. I see a lot of double parking happening there for people that are going to Boba Guys, to Melissa's, to Lucky House. That I think would be in the library, maybe to drop off or pick up a book. That block needs something. So again, it gets down to enforcement. But while in front of Madhouse, like nobody respected that, I feel like in front of Julie's, people did. So we could have that there, and then as we come up with an approach on how we're doing more widespread enforcement, then we can tackle that. But at least having that space, I think, is beneficial. I know people who live around the corner on Monterey who said that people block their driveway all the time because they're going to pick up food. So it's not just a problem on visitation. It really is spreading to blocking driveways on the surrounding streets. So yeah, we don't need to call it a Uber Eats pickup zone or delivery driver pickup zone. It should be for anybody who's wanting to frequent a business for a short period of time on that block. And then I think evaluating our fines is a good idea. It sounds like there's some other fines that we need to evaluate, so that goes hand in hand with work we are probably already going to do. I'd love to hear more about contracting with third-party enforcement. I thought that the parking sticks was a great idea, but understand that maybe we're a little bit ahead of the game. So maybe that's something that we implement at a later time if it's cost effective. I'd love to see the city do something with the teen center site. I think it's just low hanging fruit. We might end up doing something with this site, but right now we could put it into use immediately for parking. And I think it's a relatively minor cost. And if we did decide to put a building there, we've already leveled it out. So I don't know, it's probably not the same kind of site prep that you would do, but it's something. So those are the things that really called out to me. But, definitely encourage staff to submit a prioritized list that they think would be most effective.
Madam Mayor, just through the chair, we wanted to offer something Christine and I were talking about a moment ago. And I don't know that this is possible, but thinking about some of the third-party parking vendors that are out there, the ones that physically do the work, they come out and drive, we could explore a pilot program with them and see if it's effective. I haven't had that kind of conversation. I'm sure that they want to buy into some sort of year program or something of that ilk. But if it's possible, we could dialogue with those organizations, with those groups, and see if we could try something for a period of time to see if it had an effect on visitation. There is, even in this meeting today, there's a diversity of opinion related to what those issues might be there. So trying out some stuff might give us a sense of what really is the issue. Wanted to offer that as you're discussing.
Okay, Councilmember Kern.
Thanks, Maz. I really appreciate the smorgasbord of options here tonight. I just want to call out, we've got our flags at the intersections. And kids, young kids, older young kids that walk to school together in groups, they love the flags. They literally are parading with these flags. They're being silly as heck crossing the crosswalk, but they're using the flags and they're being seen. So I really appreciate that safety improvement is out there and people are using them and no one's stealing the flags. Like, it's really great. I hope I didn't put an idea in somebody's mind. Angel, can we go back to the image that I showed of the three-dimensional crosswalk very quickly? The original image. I just want to talk about this for 1 second because I really appreciate Chris Florkowski's comment here. So this is the image as it is designed as you're driving a car in a driving position towards the crosswalk. The person is not painted. This is a person who's crossing on a flat surface here. Angel, can you show the image of the actual crosswalk as it appears to a person who would be walking across the street on the crosswalk? I just want to make sure that we're being clear on what this looks like. This is what it looks like to a human being crossing. So the crosswalk only appears three-dimensional in one direction. Chris Florkowski is correct. And this is what it looks like to a pedestrian crossing. So Mayor Mackin, I don't want to discount what you said. I just wanted to show, an example of what this looks like. So with that being said, Maz, I agree with Councilmember O'Connell. If you came to me and you said, these are the things that I think are most effective, I would listen to you and say, you would know best. And so I would look forward to that. I do appreciate you pricing these things out to give us some direction. It really, really is very, very helpful. With regard very specifically to the parking supply and management, the teen center site, you know what? The last parking space I purchased and I own, I paid $25,000 for one space. I still owe $7,500 on it. So $25,000 to create 12 spaces to me seems like an incredible bargain. And if $25,000 is really the price to do that, it seems like a no-brainer to me. And I'm a big tester, test and find out. Even if we invested $25,000 in that site and it wasn't fully utilized, we're going to learn something from that program. So it's sitting there empty today. It's an asset we have. We could do something with it. So I'm a big fan of that one. Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Councilmember Lentz.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, thank you for the presentation, Maz. I as well, also appreciate the suite of options here. I think it's this is what you're looking for, right? To explore different things and see examples, have discussions amongst each other. So this is super, super helpful. Let's see, on the on those curb extensions. So I have also heard a lot of feedback from folks not wanting people to make U-turns. But one of the constituents, made a good comment, and something I had a little conversation with the city manager about, like, well, if they're not making U-turns, then they're making left turns or right turns, and they're going down someone else's street. And is that an inconvenience? We talked about traffic calming. Would that be an irritant to someone, not being able to make a U-turn and go to where they want to go? Maybe it's a parking spot or their the place that they want to go to is it's real close. They can see it, but now I have to do this up and around, and so I want to get your feedback on that. Is that something that you would be thinking about as a recommendation for maybe perhaps this isn't a good idea to do a bulb out because of that?
So the way I would approach this is that I've heard loud and clear that there's favorable components out of the matrix. So what we would do would be to turn this into a capital improvement project. We come back with a recommended budget and really look at a design. And so we could look, and that would be part of the analysis. U-turns. What are we doing with the traffic? Are we pushing traffic patterns into other areas where we don't want it to go? Those would all be things that we would look into as part of that more robust design.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that would be great. And I thank you, Frank, for showing us the 3D crosswalk model. I've seen them before too, but you think about it, oh, that's great. It'd be wonderful in Brisbane, and then you forget about it. And I'm glad that you brought this to the table. If there was a neat way to incorporate art into it, yeah, then that would be fantastic. Having a really cool intersection. I think when you have something that's cool, it also makes people pay attention too. And so that's also a traffic calming component. So I hope that we could consider that as the total package. So the teen center site is a temporary parking area, right? I think is something that we should be doing. It's not being utilized right now to its capacity. We've been wanting to have that site be affordable housing, but we haven't pulled the trigger, and for whatever reasons, that come up, it isn't happening. So I agree. It's money well spent, and it wouldn't cost that much considering the potential of getting more parking availability on visitation, which has increased a lot. I was surprised. I tried to get a parking spot to go to my office hour meeting at the library, and oh man, I had to park several blocks away. Now, granted, if you're in the city and you park several blocks away, that's actually, hey, I found a good spot. You're just so used to it in Brisbane that it should just be right here. So I would like for us to consider that, and I would also hope that staff, if it was the pleasure of the council, to reach out to the church that's across the street from the parlor. It was brought up during our summit, and people were saying, well, yeah, it's a private parking lot, yes, but it's only utilized on certain days and times. Could we potentially negotiate with the church owner and use it as a public parking space that we pay for? Right? The city says, okay, let's go into some kind of negotiation, give them a monthly amount, And then that opens up, I don't know how many parking spots, but it's a pretty decent amount. And it's in an area that I know from your mom, she loves to speak her mind. And that area is also inundated with a lot of people parking there. So that could free up. And now we have the new restaurant, the Parlor, across the street. That could help too. Speaking of the Parlor, there seems to be parking behind that restaurant, and it would be nice if they could open that up as well. So if you wouldn't mind chatting with them.
Oh, I think that's for the apartment building
Is it
next door to the parlor.
on the backside?
Yeah,
Is it okay? So it's not
think it's-
restaurant parking.
I don't think so.
No,
I think
okay.
it's for the apartment building.
Okay. And then in regards to the double parking, so people double park for a reason, to go to certain places. Well, maybe if at those certain places we post a sign there, not so much posting a sign on our street, because I mean, I think we already have enough signs, but if there was a sign that we asked, the Boba folks or Melissa, say, hey, can you just post a sign here, say, please don't double park on visitation. Please, just a nice ask. Maybe it might make people think the next time, okay, I'll park a little bit further away. And let's see. Oh, so the commercial parking. I'm in agreement with that. Based on this little chart here that you provided, it looks like these timeframes, hit most of the businesses that have that drop off for their goods that they need. So having an hour here and an hour there, and just really limiting to that makes sense. So I think that's a good idea. And I think there was one last thing. And that is it. So thank you very much. I appreciate the great work and looking forward to what you bring back to us.
Okay,
Madam Mayor, may I make one comment?
go ahead.
Quickly. Thank you, Councilmember Lentz, for bringing forth the church parking lot idea. I just counted, they already have 11 painted spaces in that lot.
There you go.
That is all. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to make a comment. The church parking lot is supposed to be used by the library employees. That's an arrangement that's already there. I don't know if the rest of you know that. Maybe you've heard. I would just like to thank Maz also. I think this is a lot of comprehensive suggestions. I won't go through them all. I still think the raised crosswalks will do a lot. Teen Center parking lot paved, figuring out a way to permit it during certain hours. Let's get the business people on visitation to park in that lot and free up the spaces in front of their businesses so we don't get double parking. Would solve that problem. So that being said, I would just like, as echoing what Councilmember O'Connell said, you are the expert on this. Confer with staff, come back to us with some ideas. Complete Streets can help you, whatever. I think that's the way to go, and I appreciate your attention to this. Chris, I see your hand, but we already finished the public comments, so we're moving on now.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
may I make one comment?
Sure.
I just want to remind everyone, and if they haven't been to the city recently, to look at Valencia Street and what they did on Valencia Street. They so over-controlled, over-planned, unpermitted everything that it ruined traffic. It made it less safe. It reduced parking. The bike lanes were a nightmare. Ubers could not figure out the signage, and the other autonomous vehicles could not figure out the signage. It has been a nightmare. They spent millions. Then they ripped half of it out.
No U-turns anywhere.
No turns anywhere. I mean, they ruined it for traffic. They ruined it for bicycles. They ruined it for the businesses. Let's not do that to Brisbane.
Okay, so you feel you have direction?
I do. I heard loud and clear as far as priority item, the bullet points 1 and 2. So those two we will take a closer look at. There's some of them we may do operationally, but the staff will come back to you with a proposal for a capital project scope. The parking supply, that's kind of a standalone. We'll look at that and move forward with some of those improvements. And then we'll work with our police department and city manager's office with respect to the enforcement and come back with some ideas and strategies there. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on. Staff reports, city managers report, city updates, and upcoming activities, please.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, members of council. We have 2 egg hunts this weekend. We have Mob's Mother of Brisbane's egg hunt, 11 a.m. at the community park on Saturday. And then the Lions egg hunt at Lippman is on Sunday at 1 o'clock. 2 council members who have office hours next week. Councilmember Lentz has office hours at 5:30 on April 8th. And I'm just pulling up the location at the Viewpoint Clubhouse, Mission Blue and Red Hawk. And on April 12th, Vice Mayor Davis is going to hold her office hours at 10 a.m. at the community park. Finally, as you heard earlier tonight, we're kicking off our red curb painting program on April 9th, 9:30 to noon. I understand we have already a half a dozen volunteers for that effort, which is very exciting. And we'll see how well it goes. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have a report from our city clerk about recruitment update for city or for council committees and commissions.
Honorable Mayor and council members, we received 11 applications total for our recruitment, which would require about a 3-hour meeting for council members. So the special meeting I'm proposing would be for either April 7th or April 14th. Does council have a preference? And my start time, I'm hoping, would be at 3:30.
I think we're going to need to do a poll through Angel. We don't have all our schedules here. If we could do that, I think that's the most efficient way to approach it.
And just to recap, we did receive 3 applications for OSEC, 1 application from Complete Street Safety Committee, 1 for the IDEA Committee, and 6 total for Public Art Advisory Committee.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you very much.
So if I may, I just wanted to let you know that on the 7th and the 14th, I could be available, but I would need to be attending via Zoom.
Okay. We move on to future agenda items. Do we have any council members wishing to propose future agenda items? Seeing none, we move on the next item, our countywide assignments subcommittee reports. Do we have any reports? Councilmember Kerr? Mayor Pro Tem Davis. Councilmember Lentz?
I do not.
Councilmember O'Connell?
I attended the airport roundtable meeting last night. One of the things that was discussed, although it was not an agenda item, was the runway closures for the maintenance and how that's affected traffic. And also there was discussion from the airport administrative staff about the new FAA rules that came down prohibiting side-by-side fair weather landing. And at this point, it was just announced, it is completely separate from the runway repairs that are going on. The restrictions are planned to be permanent from the FAA as far as the side-by-side visual landing. And so they are trying to work out the parameters on how they will deal with that. They are expecting 25% of landings to be delayed at this point. And as you know, a plane has to land and turn around before it can take off again. So that's going to mean that departures are also going to be pushed pushed back further and later. They are looking at how they can respond to the FAA. They feel it's been a little bit premature to take that option away from pilots to let them do side-by-side visual. They do not feel that it was anything to do with politics. They think it was more as a safety concern by the FAA due to recent airspace intrusions and flight mishaps. But they are looking at possible workarounds and how they can mitigate some of the late night delays that they've been having. They don't have any plan as of yet because this was just sprung on them. But as they deal with how they're going to cope with the delays and the runway compression, they will let our staff know to keep our public informed. They were also very happy about the amount of support they got from our staff as far as getting the message out about the runway closure and the maintenance that was going on and the overflights that were going to be changing, and really appreciated the assistance they had in messaging from our staff and other roundtable member staff. So they felt that it was getting in front of some of the issues and complaints that would be coming due to this runway maintenance project, and we're very appreciative of that. So that's about all I know, and we hope that it's not keeping too many people up late at night. I certainly hear more planes late at night, but it's one of those bad things about living so close to an airport.
Thank you for that. Interesting. Okay, I have a subcommittee report, PCE, actually. We had a board meeting on the 26th, and it was brought up, there's so many changes in the energy sector. PCE is going to be reaching out to different cities in the whole service area, trying to get an idea what future commercial development projects would be. And this is to build a more accurate forecast of energy needs for the near and far term, in that with the advent of AI and also all those data storage buildings, rates on electricity and the demand is predicted to escalate energy costs, but also to stress out the grid. And that oftentimes results in higher rates. So PCE is trying to keep the rates very stable and that's been possible mostly because there's been a lot of really good financial planning done to keep the costs managed. Finally, the programs for residential customers are also being reevaluated to reduce ongoing energy costs, and especially designing programs for customers of all different income levels to participate and benefit. So that's my report there. Written communications, City Clerk.
Correspondence was received from James Lloyd regarding public comment on item I for tonight's council meeting. Sarah Mills, support for Visitation Avenue improvements and pedestrian safety. Kim Folian, regarding the BCC meeting agenda, new business item K, Complete Streets Safety Committee recommendations for Visitation Avenue. Olivia Qureshi, proposed development on San Bruno Mountain. Christina De Leon, Leon, joined me at the park for City Council office hours. And also, last but not least, we received correspondence late this evening, from Lori Eames.
Thank you. Next, we move on to oral communications number 2. And do we have a member of the public wishing to make public comment at this time? I see someone in the audience wishing to speak. Step up to the podium, please.
Thank you. This is kind of indirectly about a topic earlier in the meeting, but it's not exactly. It's about the 2-hour parking. When did we stop enforcing this? And why did we stop enforcing this? I don't understand why we're asking Moz to solve this problem, quite honestly, since it's an enforcement issue. We have signs up. They've been up since I moved to Brisbane. At what point did we stop enforcing those? And why? And what's to stop us from simply enforcing them? City manager has just given us an opportunity here by suggesting some options that we can pursue. So if we want to reinstate that, I think this is something that the city council can address, and it isn't something that Moz necessarily has to shoulder. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else, City Clerk? No? Okay.
No.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. This meeting is adjourned at 8:56 PM.